So Lorna, thank you for finally getting in front of you. Right. And as you know, we're doing the whole series of the Boom Business Hour. Yeah. So this is our intro into it. So Lorna, now I finally made it to Tunbridge Wells, having seen you in Birmingham. Right? So tell us, how did the great lady first get into business?
Wow, that's quite a big question. I guess I trained, as many do, I went through university, I trained in IT. In fact, I was one of the very first IT courses in university degrees in the country. And I left there and went to work in IBM in Europe. So I love languages.
Was that straight from your university?
It was, straight from university. In fact, for me, languages were my passion. Just to get into one of the big blue chips, and it was IBM or DEC then at the time, which doesn't exist anymore, obviously. And I went to work for IBM. I was very fortunate to have been given that opportunity. And I went to work in Brussels, so I could further my French, my business French, which I did. And I worked there as a global marketing postgrad placement. And yeah, I learned a huge amount. And what was fascinating for me at that time was this huge build-up from your gaining your qualification in skills in university to then go out into the big wide world.
And applying it.
And actually, whatever your expectations are, I guess for me at the time, working for a very large blue chip, it gave me a huge amount of experience. I was definitely saw that I was a small fish in a big pond. I was working with a fabulous team, and in fact, actually, I was actually on the other side of these cameras. One of the first things I had to do as a marketing role was actually to film, edit, and actually be the presenter. Which
was that part of the training? Was that part of the induction?
It wasn't the induction. I was dropped in. I did a degree in IT and marketing, and because I'm working for an IT company, but in a marketing capacity, I was doing everything that I needed to do to support this part of the IBM. It was the insurance division in terms of what they were doing. So I actually set about creating a global, if you like, piece of film which presented our product to all of the global IBM clients. Wow. So it was quite a big deal. And
so you have got a skill set in this sphere. This is not new. This is not
any good at all, Roger. Actually, at that point, I decided my TV career was over. But here I am again.
But you must have been. I mean, from like being a student and being very impressionable and having the passion to. It seems I didn't realise you were a linguist as well.
I love languages. I think that's part of my family. We've done a lot of travelling, and I pick up languages quite quickly. I haven't used my business French for quite a number of years, but when you go back to France, which I am very shortly, I'll hopefully get to use it again. But from IBM, I worked with them for a couple of years.
This was in Brussels.
This was in Brussels, and I was still in touch. Actually, I was I was 21, early 20s, and I was in touch with lots of people from all parts of the world, and in fact, I still am today, and I work with some of them too.
All the ones assembled in Brussels
because
on
Brussels
behalf of
was the sort of central
the
hub, and they used it for lots of secondments and things of that nature. So I got to meet people from literally every corner of the earth, which was lovely. But I decided, rightly or wrongly, and I think absolutely rightly at the time, to leave IBM. Everyone thought I was crazy. Why would I do that? To go and travel. So I actually did my travelling piece after having gaining some work experience. And I actually went to work for IBM. It worked as well, of course. And I went to work for IBM in Australia, but that was probably a very tiny part of it, and I travelled for 18 months. After I got that out of my system, I came back to the UK and actually decided to do things completely from start. So this is where I think the beginning of my journey starts, to answer your question.
Sure.
So where did I get into business? I fell into a company that was in the fast track, was the .com boom. And I took on, I guess I was a risk. I had no sales experience, and as such, I had the marketing and the IT background. And I decided that I really liked the look and feel of this company. I wanted something that was fast, dynamic. It really appealed to me. And
that grabbed your attention, motivated you. And what was that?
Yes.
Who was that?
The company was called MAID, M-A-I-D, Market Analysis and Information Database. They don't exist anymore. However, they got bought out by Datastar, by Dialog Corporation, a large US company. And actually I was part, they were a tiny team, a small team of perhaps 70 to 100 people they grew to be a huge team and actually floated on the stock exchange in the time that I was working for them. So it was really dynamic, very entrepreneurial, and I guess that stayed with me all the way through my career.
And what was your role within that company?
I started out literally from the ground up. I was customer service executive for probably a couple of months, very quickly moved into a sales role, and actually within 2 years I was their top salesperson.
Wow.
And I remember I had no training at all, in fact. So it's quite fascinating to see, for me, now doing what I'm doing now, to come from probably what was quite typical. You're very lucky, actually, even these days, if you get any training when you join a role, you're often taken on for your background and your years of experience. Sure. And in this instance, I hadn't got that, but I had what I guess they called natural sales ability at the time. And I learned, I did some things wrong, I did some things right, but clearly quite a lot right. And I worked for that company and then became a manager, and that's when I moved into more of a sales leadership role. I worked for that company for about 5-6 years, and then I got stolen by one of my clients, effectively.
Headhunted, as they say.
Yes. I was headhunted into Reed Elsevier, one of the largest blue chip.
So what are they called?
Reed Elsevier.
Reed Elsevier.
They are one of the largest publishing companies globally. Well, they have been for many, many years. And I work for one of the divisions, which is the business-to-business publishing arm, and they publish something like 200 or so titles, magazines, different types. So, and yes, well, some of them weekly, some daily, some...
But that's how many they got, over 200?
At the time. And they were, to be fair, they saw themselves as... We were just coming into the dawn of advertising via the internet. So every company had a website, but they weren't really using it to promote and to... Certainly for a publishing company that could make revenues through advertising.
So at the time, that was still being very cutting edge.
It was, and I'd come from a background...
Like you said, websites, but so they weren't just happy that there's websites that existed, but how to make the most of websites, which people to this day in 2014 are trying to get their head around.
Well, it was interesting because I didn't really cover what Made did. They were so leading edge. We were taking business information, and by business information now, you go onto Google, you go onto the internet, and you've got stacks of it. I mean, you can get information at your fingertips, literally. But at the time when I was just starting work with this company, internet wasn't even on people's desktops. So it was a new thing, and it was all, like anything that's new. Yeah. Well, people don't, until they trust it, they don't know. And even telephone lines or mobile phones. I had a mobile phone. No one else I knew had a mobile phone unless they had one of those big things. But what we did at Made was we very, very cleverly, they gathered information from lots and lots of sources, so newswires, brokerage houses, market research reports, and company financial data, and they pulled it together in one repository and made it available so that the end user, rather than a big librarian or the library or the research team of a big bank who had access to all of this data, the end user could just buy a little bit of information, and it was transforming the way that businesses were operated.
So what would be an exemplar of a company who used Made or a client who used Made? A client
that would have used Made originally might be an advertising company. So let's say an advertising agency, to go and do a pitch, they had to research. They were pitching BT, for example, to have do their advertising, whatever creative it was. They would want to get as much information about that company beforehand, so they could research what they thought they liked, what they didn't like, anything. So it was business information, and I know for a fact, because the CEO of that company, who's a very well-known man, Dan Wagner, his background, or his family background, had worked in that industry, and they'd spotted this opportunity and this gap, and there were people in that market already, but they were doing very quite antiquated systems, and what Daniel Wagner had decided to do is bring a team to make it more accessible. Right, that word comes up, quite accessible and affordable, and that's a big part of my mantra in terms of what I'm doing now. But it was revolutionary. So what we were then selling, we would then sell a subscription to the service, and then they would effectively pick and choose.
Yeah, so they handpick it, but it's all there for them in one-stop shop.
So the one-stop shop, very, very bite size. You literally like a pick and mix, and you don't pay for what you used. So much more affordable to any company.
So Lorna, they brought you in, they built you up, and you left the company.
And I left the company.
And you got
having said
headhunted.
that, there were some amazing people there, but
Yeah.
I was very fortunate. I used every opportunity I got
Yeah.
there, and actually part of that was the dynamics of the company, and it allowed me to grow. And having then taken on a new position for Reed Elsevier, and it was then, the division was called Reed Business Information, and I worked for the aerospace group. So
Was this all in the UK?
This is all, no, it was global actually. So
Right.
my role...
Where were you based? You went from Brussels, so when you went from Maid, you were back
Maid
in the
was
UK?
in the UK, in London, right in the heart of London, Leicester Square. And then Reed was headquartered in Sutton, in Surrey. So still very, central, if you like, not far from
Still in the home
London.
counties.
It's true. And the opportunity for me, the exciting piece was I was moving from really a sales role into a sales leadership role. And I was being given, completely rolled out the red carpet for me, to then, they wanted me to take all of their current paper products, which they were obviously selling advertising for, and to take it online and create a subscription-based model with partners that would add to that model with lots of different data. So quite similar to what I was doing at Maid, but specifically for this aerospace, and it was the commercial air transport sector.
Wow.
So I had the privilege, and I still see this as an amazing privilege, to set up the global sales team for this division. Bearing in mind it was a very traditional company, and still many of these publishing companies are still run in a similar way, and in how they sell that and have their advertising teams and their revenue stream set up. But this was a whole new area, so I guess I was brought in as the expert. And if I'm honest, I'd never led teams before. So this is where my journey started into where I am now, really quite strong.
What, in terms of leadership, management?
Leadership, sales management, and actually driving the performance of a team.
Yeah.
Because I was then at the helm, and I had the most amazing opportunity to grow it from scratch. And
I was going to say, so on the one hand it was red carpet, but it was also an open book of how to devise it by the sounds of it. Is that right?
That's right, yeah.
So
exactly.
you were going to lead on how it was going to be set up and how it was going to be rolled out.
Exactly. And actually it was amazing because I was given, I had a team of people around me who I could draw on, and of course we weren't like a blank, it was a blank canvas, but we had all of the rich background and resources that were available. So I was very fortunate, and I had some amazing people that I brought into the team. Some I knew already, some I recruited in, brand new, and the majority of them are still there today. Now, I don't know, I'm trying to count quickly on my fingers how long ago that was, but it must be at least 18 years ago now. Yes, that's probably about right. And I ran that team for 8 years, and we grew, and it was fantastic. So I got to, as part of that role, run and set up teams. So I lived in the States, because North America is a massive market, one of the biggest
aerospace,
commercial air transport was the part that I was involved with, and in Asia, so offices in Singapore, and then dealing with our clients obviously around the Asia and Australasia piece, and London was our headquarters.
So that fitted in with the lifestyle you probably wanted, the travel.
Well, I loved it. I was 27 years old, and yes, I had the time of my life. It was fantastic, but I couldn't have done it without the right people. And actually, that was a massive lesson for me, because within a very short space of time, we'd grown and establishing a really fantastic product, and it's now, that team now runs the core of their whole offering. So it's almost reversed round. Where we were the tiny piece, now it's the...
Now it's the main piece.
Yeah, I'm very proud of the team and everyone there. And actually, it was there that I realised my passion is for people development. And although, again, at that time, there was nothing traditional for training people in sales leadership, whether you're a small business or a large business.
Yeah, or a corporate.
Corporate. There was very little out there to really train someone to be a fantastic sales leader. And of course, in fact, my previous company, which I'll talk about in a moment, we actually researched what is the percentage of individuals that become sales managers or sales leaders from being being the best salesperson, and it's actually quite astonishing. It's 82% of sales leaders are best salesperson made sales manager, and actually the characteristics don't always align.
Not always compatible. You think that just because you're the best salesperson, you wouldn't necessarily be the best sales leader.
But of course, there's all the anomalies. I'd like to think I'm one of those. Yeah. So anyhow, I mean, I had some training, but it was management training. It's sales leadership, and I've subsequently really evolved and designed programs that really drive the capacity of a sales leader.
But is that and was that the real cutting edge gap of what we just said? That if you're a great salesperson, that didn't necessarily mean that you'd be a great sales manager and leader, and is it the gap in between that is the USP?
It's not. That's not the USP around particularly around what we do, because I think that's just more of it's a realisation, and it's fact. In many instances, it's a natural thing that instantly a company will promote their best salesperson into a manager because they think that's what they want to do, and in one swoop they've hamstrung their whole sales operation. They've taken away their best performer, so their sales will drop.
Sure.
And they're actually not a natural leader, so they can compete with the rest of their team, and there's lots of things with that. In fact, we've researched this thoroughly, and we have, based on what we do now, it's all founded on that research. So in terms of why did I then move from there, and it's a fantastic opportunity. 7 years later, well, I think that's in part comes back to I like to build things and grow things, and I realised, having sat on the other side of the fence at that point, being a supplier, or not supplier, somebody who is the recipient of sales training organisations, I was regularly bringing in from various countries, so whether it was the US or whether it was in whatever part of the world, I was recruiting in local trainers to support my team. And I realised that actually the coaching that I gave and my managers then gave was the difference that made the difference.
Sure.
So I had a very innate belief around how you can make a difference. And I believed...
And you saw it firsthand in different parts of the world.
Absolutely. And actually just a fascinating point about something I really observed in the US, and I spent probably 5 years in between, more in the US than I did in other parts of the regions around the world. And sales is seen as a profession, and very much a respected profession in North America. And then you'd come back to the UK and parts of Europe, and at that time, that was when sales really, I don't think, had a particularly good... in terms of
reputation, or
reputation was
people wouldn't even rely on a profession. It's almost like go and do sales, like it's a Ebenezer geezer kind of thing, you blag your way into it and you get people to, and that's the kind of thing. So it doesn't have the aura or the respect that like you're saying it deserves in North America.
I've seen it firsthand in places that I've worked where there'd been no sales training. I realised that it was an art and a science, and there's a lot more you have to do it than just being really a natural salesperson with a gift of a gab. So one of my previous colleagues and I decided that we wanted to go out and change the world of sales, and I set up a company called Silent Edge, which is still going strong.
And that's your company.
That was my brainchild with another business partner at the time, and I'd set up and ran that with them together for 10 years. And the key with that opportunity and what we were able to do was to really start to try and bring some tools and techniques to support sales leaders to really coach and support their team. And we created some leading edge assessment tools, which today are still very much that, which help very large corporates, because predominantly we worked with large corporates at that time, and that they help them drive their revenues. And actually that then leads me to where I am now. So the journey's been quite a sort of a varied journey, but one that's led me probably for the last 15, 20 years in the capacity of personal development, but specifically working in the sales performance and sales leadership piece. and now service, customer service. So I had the sales activator, and this is I'm hugely passionate about this.
So this brings us to current.
Current. This is
so from Silent Edge to sales activator. Was that your next move?
It was, yes. So I had the opportunity to sell out of Silent Edge at the time, and
how long ago was that?
That was 4 years ago, and well, no, sorry, a little bit less. And I was having my second child. I decided actually I was going to take a bit of a career break, which I did for a very short time, but it wasn't long before I was back because I realised very quickly I couldn't. Yeah. This is in my blood, and it's my passion, and it's part of what I want to achieve. So I've now been involved with Sales Activator for just over 2 years, and I bring with that all the knowledge that I took from my previous roles, of course, and it was really that Sales Activator has been around as an offering, and this is our coaching toolkit system for over 10 years. And I'd seen it and come across it, but
was it called Sales Activator then?
It was called Sales Activator, but it was designed originally as there were 2 board games, and it was an alternative way to train. And it's been widely researched that if you can learn while you're having fun, then you actually retain much more of that information. It goes into your long-term memory, so when you need to recall it, it's easy to recall. And actually most people like playing games, especially salespeople. It's highly competitive, it's really engaging, and that was where originally I'd come across it, and I was like, this is quite a unique way of looking at and learning and development. and actually at the time I hadn't realised the enormity of how much sits within this coaching system. So this is the foundation of what we offer now. However, we offer a holistic range of really diverse coaching tools. The toolkit is one of them.
This is all under the umbrella of the Sales Activator.
The Sales Activator. So we have effectively we work with companies who are a 2-man band. So it's one of my, again, really important things to be accessible and affordable to everyone, rather than just be something that the large corporates,
just for corporates,
that they can benefit from. I've been in myself in position as being a small business, and I need every bit of help I can. And we've recently launched programs that are just targeted for SMEs. And
or did I say one-man bands even?
Yes, and it's actually the impacts have been instant results. So the toolkit, the coaching system, is designed for business owners or sales leaders if you're in a larger corporate, and it literally is a box, a toolkit with 70 hours of coaching resources. That's 70.
I've seen it. Lorraine showed me. It's quite
we'll have to
extensive.
Get it out one of the next things.
In the next episode, it's quite an impressive piece of physical kit,
Well, I think the challenge, and having myself been in a global sales leader role, whether you're in a small business or a large business, if you're actually a business owner, you might wear every single hat in the business, and time is one of your biggest critical factors. And you've got a million things to do. Yeah,
what your utilisation of time.
Your utilisation.
Where do you best spend it?
And how exactly?
Yeah, I'm still having that problem to the current day.
Yeah,
but that's another story.
I say that everyone, I have to go through and assess my time plans all the time. Yeah. However, it doesn't matter whether you're in a large company and you're reporting to a big board of directors, or if you're in a small company trying to do everything. Time is one of your limiting factors, and the other piece that's absolutely key is to get the best performance out of your team. You need to be constantly refreshing their knowledge, because you can't rely on somebody who's come with 20 years of experience. They might be bringing 20 years of bad habits into your organisation. Whilst that could be, we're talking about the actual owner of the business in that instance.
Sure.
And do they have time to go on a training programme? In an ideal world, yes. But this toolkit is designed, it can actually remove the need to actually go on a training programme. It can be used in bite-sized chunks. Because everything's been broken down into tiny, small chunks of information.
All within the toolkit.
Within the toolkit, you can just dip into what you need. And there are some games in there, and not every bit of resource is going to be right for the organisation, but it's completely flexible. So with 70 hours of coaching resources, you'd be hard done trying to use it for a year and a half.
So Lorna, in my humble understanding, that toolkit, that physical piece of resource, can be utilised by a business as a form of training for their staff.
That's right.
Is that right?
That's right.
So, and instead of your classic sending them away for training, it can be done through that toolkit.
Well, it can be. However, in an ideal world, they would have some element of training, which might be delivered in-house or might be from an external program.
Sure.
We deliver all that training as well as an organisation. The key with this is about reinforcing knowledge that might already be there, existing, or layering on that knowledge with new skills. And I think one of the things that really, again, I found really quite profound is where we learn. I'm sure you've been on a training programme of sorts at some point in your career, and nearly everyone will have done. We are only human after all. And in fact, it's been well researched since the 1860s, I think, obviously a lot more recently as well, especially in terms of the way we are interested in how people operate and how we work as human beings. We actually have, there is a learning curve, we all learn at a certain rate in time, but there is also a forgetting curve, and this has been well mapped out.
So retention.
Exactly. So if you take a course, let's say you've been on a one-day course, I'm sure you'll have come away really motivated, really excited, and you've put your book or whatever you've got somewhere and with great intentions, and you then get sucked into your next day today, whatever your activity is. And from that point, you have, with all your good intentions, you might take and try a couple of things. Now, let's say it doesn't work out, so you might think, well, I'm going to leave that, I'll go back to it at another time. You very quickly revert back to type, and you've probably, 3 months later, come across that booklet or that workbook. You think, oh yes, that was a good course, but actually, have you used any of it? Probably not.
Or have you implemented any of it? Probably not.
Well, and these are the facts. So the forgetting curve, and this is again, as I say, it's been well researched. If you haven't used any information within 24 hours of coming away from a programme, you will just naturally, because it's what we do as humans, you will have forgotten, lost 80%.
Wow.
80%.
Really? So basically the substance of it.
Well, potentially, if you look at the 80-20 rule, so let's say within 24 hours, you've only retained, because our brains can only physically retain a certain amount of information. If you then take it a little bit further, 28 days later, so a month,
2 months,
a month later, if you haven't then in use...
Oh, so the first one was 24 hours, isn't it?
So the first one was 24 hours.
Yeah.
Then a month after that, at that training, if you haven't used it, you're down to 3%. Now, that actually, to me, when I first discovered this research, it was just like a light bulb went off. I realised that all those times that I'd motivated my team with this wonderful training, and then
thought you'd won them over.
And then no one actually helped to reinforce it. I relied on them and their motivation to go and use that information. It was just a jolly, actually, and a great motivational experience. You know, I've been there and done that as well.
Yeah.
So when you take that knowledge and you realise that actually in any investment in someone's skills, if you haven't reinforced and layered on that knowledge within a certain very short time span, you might as well have not made that investment. That's the toolkit is designed to reinforce and layer on people's knowledge.
So on an ongoing basis.
On an ongoing basis, and it can be used in lots of different ways. Just to give you an idea of how powerful it is, when it's used on a regular basis, the minimum impact it has on our clients' sales performance is minimum of 15%. So clients and we have a whole host of other...
From baseline?
From baseline, so from tomorrow's...
And that's a minimum?
Toolkit, that's the minimum.
Wow.
We have some teams that have seen 50% improvement in performance. So I'll give you some examples, and we've obviously got lots of these. So this is, we ran an open programme just a short time ago, literally I think 10 days ago, and there were 5 or 6 businesses attending, and a sales manager who's pretty new to that role, and is using this as part of his resource to help him improve the team's performance. So we did a number of interventions. He came along to this open programme, and I spoke to the CEO, the MD of the business, probably 2 days after, and he didn't actually phone me. He was busy. He just texted me. He said, "You won't believe this. He has just upsold, and none of his team have ever done this, 200% margin on top of his normal what they sell." And he was blown away, basically. And we've had several instances of that from that particular individual since. And that's just one that I heard about today. So it gives you an example.
Wow.
So
I think your dear colleague Lorraine, I think, got that text because I think I was with her at the time, and she went, "Oh my God, this is what we did yesterday. Look at the impact it's had today."
Yeah.
And that literally, it was like 1,000% sales impact directly on that one individual.
So that's the power it has, and it's because of its flexibility. It's very engaging. It's not threatening. It's not challenging, and it's just easy to if you like, implement across anything else that you do in the role as a sales manager. But the team also pick up and use it even with the sales manager's not there. So
you know, when we say it's not threatening, that's very critical, because anyone thinking of upskilling, training, improving, whether you're the owner of the business who wants to send his or her sales staff, or whether you're the actual staff that are going on to it.
Yeah.
You know, some people have, you know, they're not absolutely warm to it by any stretch of the matter, quite the opposite, let alone they might think it's a jolly. But it's the actual, the fact that it's not threatening makes a big difference in the first instance, where you end up actually enjoying it. And secondly, the retention of it, because it's actually there in a physical form that the company can then keep.
Well, I mean, this is it. And what the part that's particularly non-threatening, which really, really appeals to the sales, if you like, the sales role. But don't forget, actually, we don't just work with sales; we work with customer service. So anybody that touches the customer, it's slightly different content in terms of the coaching resources. It would need to be. But however, the non-threatening piece is, if you don't do this all the time, you use the game aspect. It breaks down barriers. You get the real person. They can't help themselves. The kind of the gaming animal, the fun, competitive spirit just comes out of people. But we have tremendous feedback.
And then finally but also tell us, I know you said it's very applicable for small businesses and corporate, but also tell the viewers some of the great corporate companies that you guys have been.
Well, we're very fortunate, because we do work with a lot of corporates, and actually it's through the work with the corporates that we now have quite an incredible offering, a diverse range of solutions. So the likes of Microsoft, for example, we actually...
And that is mind-blowing that you please don't take those concepts, but I just think, wow, the Sales Activator works with Microsoft, and in what capacity?
Well, they use the toolkit. They have their own customised version, because the language and they have some models that are relevant just to what they do, and that's been incorporated into the toolkit. And we do that for not just Microsoft; it's a whole range of other clients.
I'm fascinated. How did that come about? How did the engagement with Microsoft in the first place come about?
They're actually, Microsoft are in fact actually part of another client of ours. They are a company that outsources sales forces to a whole range of sectors.
Got you.
So, and this client is McCurrock, and they're a fast-growing, one of the biggest certainly in the UK, in outsourcing to the FMCG sector, technology, financial services, and they have embraced Sales Activator for years.
Wow.
They have a customised version for every client. We have an online sales coaching and tracking tool which they use as part of the academy that we run for Microsoft. We are actually, as a result of sort of feedback from a variety of the clients, some of them including Microsoft, we're creating e-learning modules which our smaller clients will be able to benefit from. They'll be able to just buy one module. If they want to go online, they can use PayPal, and it's again ridiculously affordable, of course. But yes, so the capacity of what we achieve for the likes of Microsoft, and this is very exciting. So we've worked with them for 18 months, and we deliver. We're actually accredited to deliver certified qualifications in sales. So we do sales training programs, which are certified by the ISMM, which is the Institute of Sales Marketing Management. You may have heard of them.
Yes, I have. Only recently, but I have heard of them.
Okay, well, it's they are one of the, if you like, world, certainly very much UK recognised, but globally recognised certifications for qualifications in selling.
Got you.
Which for me is really important, because you have to have those accreditations to know that what we're delivering is best practice, which we are, and it's a very important part of what we deliver to our clients. And Microsoft, we deliver a level 3, which is the sales level qualification, a bit like if you take an A level and an S level, you can't quite align them, but it's, if you think about it in that perspective. So a level 3 is a salesperson, level 4 is the next level, like a team leader, and level 5 is the next level, so a regional manager. And we deliver all of their qualifications, and then they use the toolkit, the coaching system, online, a whole host of solutions. And they've seen a 22% improvement in performance.
Over what period? 18
months.
Wow.
Yeah. So yes, we're very excited and very
delighted.
delighted.
From that to the client last week who said, someone got $1,000% within one day.
But it shows. I mean, and certainly for us, it's a blend of the tools. From the small organisation who can benefit from a very affordable toolkit, which, for me, why wouldn't they use this? Because I want to see England and the UK really absolutely thrive and flourish, and we need, sales is at the heart of every single organisation, and it's
all about bottom line, and it's about how best to extract and, dare I say, focus on doing it the best we can. And it's like you touched on earlier on that in America, and it makes complete sense, they take that absolutely seriously and they absolutely respect that. And here, they're not quite there yet. And I think from what you're saying and what you're delivering,
my mission is, and thank you. That's really, I can see. I can't help it. I'm sorry to be.
No, sure. No.
It's one of my absolute missions to make sales professional. It is obviously in other parts of the world, but I believe no one puts their hands up in school and says, I want to be in sales. Well, very few. If they do, they see it as a stepping stone.
Sure.
However, there's an art and a science to being really effective at selling and leading into whatever area, because there's lots of different types of selling, different markets, different products, solution selling, etc. And actually, I think we can educate our schools much earlier on around things that are key factors in selling: communications, relationship building, rapport building, listening skills. These are fundamental.
Complete personal development skills.
Life. These are life skills. And actually, what we're developing, one of our new offerings, is we're taking our game online. And I'd like to tell you about that another time, because it's very exciting.
Well, Lorna, this has been a fantastic insight of our first of a series of programs, but also a series of insight. Dare I say, it's very difficult to think that we're talking about media training with you, a consummate professional in sales training. But this is a fantastic insight. I really look forward to getting under the skin of all these things. Right? I mean, just that last thing you said about taking it into schools, the education part of it. I mean, I'm desperate to also ask you about the whole global impact of the sales activator. But now you know why we do it I'm glad we're doing it as a series, a 10-part series, because it needs that and deserves that.
I know we're off now, aren't we?
No, carry on. We're finishing, so you can have the last word.
I've already talked enough.
But honestly, thank you very much for that absolute fantastic insight. And it's great to see that a company like yours can, like you said, make a huge impact on a young individual who, increased his or her sales by 1,000%, 24 hours after. And on the other hand, Microsoft, after 20 odd months,
it works. And obviously, find out more. We'd love to.
Well, we're looking forward to learning from you through the ongoing series. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Roger.